Let's try.
As you can see, I'm working from from my car today a bit.
Yes, I
Uh,
see.
so I have kind of a bad connection.
Okay, I just need one more moment here. Uh,
I
just
can
a sec.
introduce myself in the meanwhile. My name is Åsa Stenmark, and
Yes.
I work at the Swedish EPA with food part of my time. And I know that you have met several people from us before. I think, or at least some of you have, and that you have been presented also to the Swedish Voluntary Agreement before. So today I focused my presentation on the blueprint for voluntary agreements that has been developed by WRAP, which is an UK-based organization. Yeah, and they produced this blueprint under the project of Refresh, which was an EU project, and I'm just going to talk you through it. And as Christina finished her presentation, yeah, now I can see it. Excellent. So voluntary agreement, you can jump to the next slide. It's a setup that has been tested in several countries. Here Europe is mentioned, but there are actually also work going on in, as far as I know, both China and Australia, and maybe also some other countries, with assistance from WRAP setting up these voluntary agreements. And the whole idea is a little bit like project based, like you come together, you join forces, and you try to solve the issue of food waste. We have one in Sweden established 1 year ago, on the 12th of March, 12.3, the SDG for halving food waste. So we thought that was hilarious. At that time, I worked at IVL, who is also hosting the voluntary agreement of Sweden. As I said, WRAP is a big part of this. They have produced this blueprint, and they are really expert in setting up voluntary agreements on food waste, but also on other issues. What is crucial, and I think that that's maybe the same issue no matter what project you are talking about, but or whatever you're trying to do, is that the signatories see the benefits from it. And in the cases of the voluntary agreements that are around, we can really see that this is a benefit. In order to solve this, maybe that was mentioned before, we really need to work throughout the whole value chain. And you see the little circle there in the bottom right is the 5 key steps in a voluntary agreement, and I will talk you through each one of them. So if you please could take the next slide. The first step would of course be to the initiation and setup phase. We all need to start somewhere, right? So you have to identify a lead organization, and it's very good if that organization is an independent actor, since a voluntary agreement is about joining forces throughout the value chain, many different actors and many different interests, but also joining in with the government, which is sometimes, I don't know so much about Brazil, but it could be kind of a strange and new way of working together on different issues. So it's very good to have one independent actor hosting the secretariat and running it all, with of course who everyone thinks is credible to do so. So step 1 is to find one of these actors. And then of course you have to enlist for government support. So there's one thing having good cooperation throughout the value chain, but a true voluntary agreement, then you're also engaging the government, and the government is engaged in the agreement. This is so because the government often have great power, right, to make changes and to do policy actions and things like that, which it often comes down to. Then of course you should understand. I get a message that my internet connection is unstable, so I hope that you bear with me, otherwise please scream or something. You have to know the research, the food and drink sector in your country. Basically, what's the biggest produces that we make, what's the biggest crops, what does the different sectors look like, how do they cooperate today, you know, everything like that. And ideally you would like to have data also already available on where you kind of have your hotspots to start work with. That's not always the case, that you have data. Food waste data is that's a different chapter, but it could be extremely complicated. But to know and to put together as much knowledge as possible is one of the first steps to do. And then, of course, to start recruiting members from across the supply chain. We want to have a broad in the previous. It's very good. Well, I think that's always a key to success. Of course, if you need to make this change, you have to engage actors. Okay, so that's step one. Then let's go to step 2. Next slide. It's where you set the ambitions and the goals and the targets for your voluntary agreements. So basically, what are we going to achieve together? And of course, to involve members in setting the targets, not having, you know, one little specific group doing that, to let everyone have a say in that is, of course, making it then afterwards easier to have everyone engaging in the agreement. Then you could have maybe national other initiatives going on or plans, like we had in Sweden, for example, a goal on sorting out biological waste from households and restaurants. We also had work in progress going on with the national goal of reducing food waste. You have the SDG 12.3, for example, which you are to align to, of course, but so there might be other things going on that you would like to take into consideration when you're setting your goals and ambitions. And then consider the type of target that you want to have. Should it be a quantitative one, like reducing waste by 25%, or should it be more qualitative, like we're going to work on this and that, a number of good practices, for example, or so. The later one could be easier in a way, and maybe something to start with. So important to remember that there is no right and wrong here. The Swedish voluntary agreement, we have a target aligning with the 12.3 target and our Swedish national goal for reducing food waste, but it could be something else. And I think that you should really strive to find, for the actors that are involved, what's the best, what would bring most action, because that's what we want to achieve. Okay, so that's step 2. Now you have a setup and you know your ambitions and your targets. And then next slide. We go to governance and funding. So how could we fund this? Because of course it will cost you money. And in many countries, the government step in first to sort of a base funding for maybe first setup funding for the first year or 1 or 2 years or so. That's happened in the UK, for example, and also in Norway. In Sweden, we split it by half right away. So government paying half and the industry paying half. And ideally, that's what you want to achieve in the long run, so that, because with money comes also engagement, right? So by paying your way, paying to the voluntary agreement, paying for getting the work done, you also get the engagement. So I think it's important to maybe, I don't know, dare to say that, and that you shouldn't have too many free riders along in the system. The number 2 here is to agree on a governance structure. So you have a secretariat on this independent, acknowledgeable organization, but how should it be governed? Do you want to have a steering committee? What roles should different actors play? you should perhaps have a share, run it more like a business, but still, or do you run it in a way that suits your culture or your circumstances better? This is also important to discuss as with the members as much as possible. It's also important to decide on how are we taking decisions, and what's the say from different stakeholders, and so on and so forth. Agreeing on priorities and review processes and progresses, how you should work with that throughout the years, because this is a long-term agreement, right? And also, of course, how you could manage risks that you might see setting this up. And then, of course, you need to have a plan and a strategy for how to recruit new members in. Often it starts with a very engaged little hub of people, maybe knowing each other from previous projects or previous work together. But you want to engage as many as possible into this, because that's when magic happens. The more the merrier, so to speak. So how to deal with that, and how could you reach the sort of high priority organizations, the high profile one? Maybe you have someone in Brazil speaking a lot about food waste already. Maybe they could be engaged to sort of create a buzz around the agreement. And you want to attract members as much as possible. So that's step 3, and then step 4 out of the 5 steps is actually establishing actions, because the voluntary agreement is not about talking and setting goals. So first you set it all up, that's a lot of talking, but then you need to come to actions. And of course, by making the step 1, knowing your food waste or food value chain, you also know what's existing things are going on. How could we seek help from each other? It's not competing, it's collaboration with others. So, and maybe some actors, or possibly some actors, are already doing things trying to reduce food waste. So could that be built on? And then carry out the gap analysis to see, okay, what of the current initiatives that are going on are successful? Where do we need to work in order to make the wheels turn faster? And you will find those places, and also you will find those places because you start to discuss together throughout the whole value chain. Often different companies or businesses or farmers, they work within their own business, and they work good because food waste is also money. But food waste, as you know, is often pushed up and down the value chain. So by talking together, you will find those places where it's pushed. And there's a very good example, for example, from UK with potatoes. When they started to talk about how much potato they throw away in the supermarkets, they went all back to the farmers, who said that, okay, but yeah, it's because you're asking for these potatoes of a particular size, and then we have to grow this particular potato, which is easily bruised. So they changed the size demands. The farmers could grow more potato that was more not so easily bruised, and hence they saved a lot of food waste. So by talking to each other, you will find those hotspots and gap, making the gap analysis. And then, of course, you will find many things to do, and you will not have the time to do everything from the beginning. So you will make some sort of prioritization and agree on the actions that you would take in the first run. And then you can sort of work your way through your action list. So that's step number 4. And then step number 5, it's about measurement and evaluation. Because of course, if you set up goals, especially if you set up these quantitative goals, like we should halve food waste or so, even if you set up we should have a number of actions, of course you need to count that. The number of actions are more easily counted than the food waste. So you need to have a baseline in any of the goal that you're setting. So and to if you're going for food waste data, that's a job to do to set the baseline first. So you decide on what year you should use, for example, for baseline. You try to find the data, which is step 2 here, and work with the data so that you know it's consistent and coherent throughout the value chain. And then, of course, you want to do this again and again and again as the voluntary agreement goes on. So you need to have some sort of data collection process going. Again, if you have a goal of number of actions taken, this is not so hard, but if you're going to actually measure food waste, which is the aim, of course, is to reduce food waste. So many go down this, most of the voluntary agreements go down this path, actually. You need to have this process going. It cannot be too much work because that will be expensive. So it needs to be worked in together with the regular processes at the companies and so on. There is help to get. We have the food loss and waste account accepted and could be used, of course, through the RAP webpage. You can also find data reported in the food waste atlas, for example, that you could use as a when you don't have your own data, you could maybe find estimates through that. But to use this recognized reporting methods is of course good, because then you get a lot of help with quality assurance of your data. And then when you've done step 5, it's actually all about starting from the beginning again. Not completely from the beginning, of course. You already have your voluntary agreement set up and everything is in place, but making revisions and finding out new ways, new activities, and so on, that would be a part of the daily work in the agreement. The Swedish one, as I said, has been running for a year. A little bit hampered by Corona, of course, but great work is going on. So we are very much enthusiastic about it, and it's a very good way to work. And that was the whole presentation. So thank you so much for listening. I hope the connection wasn't too bad.
Thank you, Åsa, for your presentation. And now I see